appreciation. Next guest speaker, and the subject title is Health and Safety Capability. It's not just about safety culture. Naomi is on a mission to make organisations more capable to manage health and safety in whatever they do. As capability leader, she has co-founded fr&nk, a consultancy that pulls no punches about what it's about, capability. She's an AIHS Certified OHS Professional and Graduate Company Director. Naomi is the immediate past chair of the AIHS Board and remains a national spokesperson and advocate for the AIHS, the profession in health and safety in Australian workplaces. She was also an expert member of the WHS Board for the Queensland Government Office of Industrial Relations. Great pleasure to welcome here in Hobart this afternoon. Please make me welcome Naomi Kemp.
Thanks, Rick. Okay. Let me be frank. Actually, that doesn't quite sound right. I'll be Naomi, but I'll be frank with you. Today, I'm going to try to convince you to not have a single focus on culture or compliance. That is our motto at fr&nk. And if you haven't worked out, so it is fr&nk, if you haven't worked out, I am the nunk in fr&nk. And the other troublemaker up there, I should say co-founder, is Rick Fox. So he's the fr. And together we are a proud Indigenous company from Queensland, so I'm freezing my butt off down here, we work pretty hard to build health and safety capability across Australia and beyond. So, health and safety capability, it's not just about safety culture. Now, when you hear that, I reckon there's going to be a few different reactions around the room. Safety capability, interesting, tell me more. Don't worry, I will. Wait, what? You want me to do what? I haven't fixed the safety culture yet, and you want me to do a capability thing? Sounds like, some of you might be like, safety culture, nailed it, move on, next. And others might be like I was a few years ago and go, oh, don't get me started on safety culture, it's all my boss talks about. And I totally get it, because culture gets thrown around as this answer to everything. It's the default explanation for what's not working in health and safety. And after today, hearing about what it means to face tragedy this morning, what it means to lead and cultivate mentally healthy workplaces, to manage psychosocial risk, to manage ageing workforces, injury management, and ensure compliance, I think we can all agree focusing on safety culture is not going to cut it. So, there's been a lot to learn from today, and I've seen lots of people taking lots of notes. So what do we focus on? Well, that's what we're going to unpack together. And you've probably just gone, ugh, cringe, safety consultant using that word, unpack. Sorry. But ladies and gentlemen, I might be dressed like a magician. I am not a magician. I am not going to take your watch and tell you the time. That's not my trick. Today what I want to do is give you a practical way forward. Take what you've learnt today, take what you already know, because no one in this room is starting from scratch. Take what you already know and put something in place that is practical. And maybe even help you have those conversations we just talked about with executives and boards, and how you can influence them with a different type of language, the capability language. Okay, let's start with the check-in though, because I've just bagged out culture and I'm going to continue to bag it out for a little bit. Hands up, who here talks about safety culture or maybe safety climate in their workplaces? Yeah, cool. It's all right. It's okay. I'm not going to bite. Who here measures it? You might do a survey, a pulse check, or some other way of measuring some sort of climate measure. Yep. And I bet there's people who haven't put their hands up. No surprises, really. I mean, researchers, HR teams, organisational psychologists, health and safety and HR consultants have been banging on about safety culture for decades. And millions, if not billions, has been spent on trying to understand what safety culture is, and I don't think we've got there yet, and try and fix safety culture. But do we actually know where it comes from? It actually comes from the Chernobyl disaster in 1986. So the term poor safety culture was used as an explanatory term in the official IAEA report. And since then, the use of poor safety culture has emerged as a problem in most major industrial accidents. Surprise, surprise. So since the 80s, safety culture has become this go-to explanation for what's not working in health and safety. If something goes wrong and we can't quite find a technical failure, it's the safety culture. And we kind of shrug and we'll address that. The OHS body of knowledge, or the BOK as I affectionately call it. Who's heard of the OHS body of knowledge? I know Fiona will have. Cool. If you haven't, Google OHS BOK. So BOK without the extra O. So it is a resource provided by the AIHS, and it has a chapter on organisational culture. Now that chapter issues a warning to professionals and practitioners, so everyone in the room here, beware of the culture catch-all. It's a neat label to use to define when something is wrong, when you can't quite name what it is. 10 years ago, Professor Andrew Hopkins, press click Naomi. 10 years ago, Professor Andrew Hopkins, we've heard of him, right? Yeah, read at least one of his books. He pointed out this problem as well. And he said this term that they created, put back in that report in the 80s, has led to endless confusion. He argued that safety is not a separate type of culture, it's just culture, the organisational culture. And he said instead of focusing on that, we should be focused on what companies do in practice and put our attentions there. So when culture is everything, it's effectively nothing. Now I say this because culture often means a bit of everything to everyone. You often hear, well, that's just the way we do things around here. If you go to a textbook will tell you it's the beliefs and the behaviours and the norms and, you know, all the messy human stuff that goes on in an organisation. And for decades we're told if you just get the culture right, then everything else will follow. It's easy. But in the end, safety culture becomes difficult to act on with any consistency. You end up measuring stuff and you measure activity and it doesn't actually land, and so you end up with nothing particularly concrete. So you're just always chasing your tail. It becomes too long to fix, so it becomes symbolic or lip service rather than anything practical, or a label rather than a lever. What I then find is that we're too busy trying to fan the smoke. We're focusing on the smoke and we forget about the fire. So if we're serious about change, about thriving, not just surviving at work, then it's time that we stopped chasing this fantasy of a safety culture and focus on what matters. We need to fix the real problems like unclear procedures, lack of resources. We just heard that before and there was a question from it. Inadequate training. We need to fix those things because culture is not causing that. It's reflecting those problems. It's time to look past the smoke and address the fire. So, if safety capability is more than just safety culture, what is it? Put simply, health and safety capability is what an organisation is equipped to do when it comes to managing risk and enabling safe, healthy and productive work. Not what the company believes in, It's not just the values and the posters on the wall about the values. What it's actually able to do consistently, effectively, and importantly, under pressure. I was about to swear then. There goes the Queenslander. When we're under pressure, time's tough, money's tough, how are we going to address these problems? How are we going to get work done safely when we need to? So it's practical, it's tangible elements that can be addressed, developed and improved. So initially you might think, when I say capability, you might think competence. It's not just about whether people have done the training. It's about whether the whole system is working together, the whole thing is capable. The people, the processes, and those customary day-to-day practices that we do, and sometimes we do and we don't even realise there's safety involved in those processes. They all need to come together and we need to have them set up so that people can work safely in the real conditions that they face, not the arbitrary or the imaginary ones we think about when we type a beautiful safe work method statement that's 25 pages long for a bunch of builders. Nobody's ever done that. Okay, so we take a holistic approach when it comes to health and safety capability, and when we look at it through, I guess, a capability lens. So there's 3 core pillars. So we're going vertically. Yep, there's my picture. Okay, so systems is that first one, which is kind of what we're all very familiar with. This is the structured process, the structured direction that we provide. It enables prioritisation of risk, prioritisation of our activities, and gives people direction. It encompasses those formal frameworks, those governance policies, and of course the management of change and consultation, because that's a legal requirement. Our second one is customs, down the middle there. So this is the everyday practices, the customary practices. It's the way we want to do things around here that shapes safe work behaviours. It's how our teams interact, how they communicate, how they support one another to get a job done safely. And the last one is people. And so this is about the knowledge, yes, there's competence in there, and the skills of both the individuals and the teams at all levels of the organisation. So not just the road crew, but also the board or the executive team. It ensures that everyone is aware, they are skilled to implement safe work practices or to lead and direct safe work and effectively, and also be able and willing to contribute to a proactive safe work environment. So just to be clear, yes, there is an element of culture in there, in that middle column. So we're not getting rid of culture altogether, but it is the organisation, the integration of organisational culture, or how safety is part of that. So importantly though, when we look at it through a capability lens, we don't start at culture. Culture's the result. So because, and that's just what I was about to say. So before I go any further though, I do need to acknowledge, this is not something I have invented. The thinking for this comes from WorkSafe Queensland. They engaged a group of researchers from various universities across Australia to do some initial research. And their question was, they wanted to understand what is it that organisations do to manage safety, health and safety well. And then as they were going through that process, they actually added in return to work as well. So it's not just another academic paper or a consultancy buzzword. It's part of a genuine effort to understand what actually makes safety organisations safer. Blah, blah, blah. So kudos to a regulator for driving this. Tassie, you guys can jump on board too. Cool. So they bought. So importantly, what they did, and you can't see it, but down in there is a link. And if you guys get the slide, if not, just Google Safety Capability Queensland, and you'll find this. You'll find all their free resources. So you'll find heaps about it, and you can go there and get all the free stuff. So the research showed that improving safety performance is not just about mindset or messaging. It's not just about culture. It's about capability of the organisation, the alignment of the systems, the people, and those everyday practices. So whilst I came out very boldly, said I'm going to convince you, it's not just about safety culture. It's about an evolution. All right, let's evolve our thinking towards this capability concept. And so at fr&nk, we're just helping to drive that momentum. All right, so why does capability matter? So I don't know about you, but what I've seen in organisations is when they try and fix culture without building any sort of capability, they'll roll out leadership programs. You'll see lots of glossy booklets and workbooks and hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on these capability leadership programs and things like that. They'll do pulse surveys or some sort of survey, culture survey. They'll hang up posters. There's lots of tone from the top talk, but nothing actually happens at the front line particularly. We don't see it there. That's because culture's the result. Capability is what we want as the driver. So if you're struggling with inconsistent safety performance, particularly with psychosocial risks, low engagement or low participation, or recurring incidents, you need to ask yourself, do you have the capability to manage risk in the environment you're working in? Not do you have good intentions, because I think we all do. Not do we have a positive safety culture. Do we have the capability? And here's the good news. Capability is something that we can do something about. We can map it, we can measure it, and we can build it. And when you do, the culture will shift. You will see that as the result as well. Not because you focused on it, but because the people feel like they've actually been listened to, they've been involved, they feel supported, and they feel like they've been set up for success. So what does it actually, all right, she keeps mentioning this word capability. What does it actually look like? A capable organisation doesn't just have policies and procedures. It has systems for managing work that include health and safety, that make sense to the people who have to use them. I mean, it always makes sense to us because we're the safety person, right? But it's the workers out there who go, it's 25 pages, I'm not going to read that, I'll just sign my name and move on. It's got to make sense to the users. Capability is not just about trained staff either. That's important. It's about having confident, skilled people that know what good looks like. They feel safe enough to speak up, and we just heard that from the panel, when something's not happening or when they get that gut feeling that this doesn't seem right. It's not safety by the book. Well, there's the safety manual over there. That's not capability either. It's safety being done in real time with real people who know what to do and know how to adapt when the conditions change. It's also not something owned by the safety team. You will see one of my examples. They lost their entire safety team and safety just went bleh because safety were the only people managing safety. So capability is beyond just us in the room as well. Okay, so if I press this.
Today we'll be working on the German Dackenbar and Bongens Lane bus stop. We're just working on the subgrade at the moment. Other risks include there's a Telstra cable underneath the worksite, and we've had a cable locator come out last week to identify the depth. We're working outside of that exclusion zone. Another risk is we have a bus that stops at this intersection each morning, and we just be mindful of the time that it comes. Another risk is collision between the plant in a small working zone, and just being mindful and using our two ways. The worst that could happen is collision with the mobile plant or hitting any pedestrian or the traffic going through. In that case, we'd call 000 and notify the supervisor. Another worst case would be hitting the Telstra cable. In that case, we would notify Telstra. Crystal Parker, happy to proceed.
Michael Bunn, happy to proceed.
Lisa Tynan, happy to proceed.
Lee McDonald, happy to proceed.
Jason Pittman, happy to proceed.
Cal Greg, happy to proceed.
Anthony Fritz, happy to proceed.
Eleanor Hayward, happy to proceed.
Yeah, Kane, happy to proceed.
Just waiting for Kane. Okay, what you just heard there was a 22-year-old frontline supervisor of a civil construction crew conducting a on-the-job pre-start risk assessment, pre-start conversation, we should call it. We do call it on-the-job risk assessment with them. They were using something called Risk Talk. Happy to share more information about that if you like. You can Google it and find it pretty easy too. So she was doing a risk talk with her team, and I've used that example to show you what capability looks like in practice. So the team have a safe work method statement, they have work instructions, they have all the TMR, Department of Transport and Main Roads, instructions and all that paperwork. But when they get to the job on the day and they're here and they go, oh, bugger, there's a school bus that's going to pull up a couple of times during this job. And there's going to be parents parking their car to drop their kids off, and how are we going to deal with that? That wasn't in the safe work method statement. So that was part of their conversation. They worked out how they were going to do that. That wasn't a perfect example of an on-the-job risk assessment, but it was a pretty good example. I think they were about 3 weeks into using Risk Talk and trialling it when this one came up. So as you heard, they had a coordinated plan for the job. They all understood the conditions of what they were doing, their risks, and they talked about the controls, some of the controls, what they would do, and you all heard them sign off verbally, so they're all happy to proceed, which is lovely. And then those last two actually came along at lunchtime, so they joined the job at lunchtime, and they went through all their paperwork, and they joined the risk talk later on, and were happy to proceed. So, I'm going to come back to more examples. But I've already talked about the 3 core pillars. I just want to give you a little bit more snapshot into what all these colourful boxes are. Okay, so if we look, what we do is we measure capability across 3 dimensions horizontally. So I'm going to break down these 9 elements across ways just to play with your mind. Okay, so the first dimension is drive. Now, drive is about the organisation's commitment to health and safety. It's about who is driving it, especially when goals are in conflict, whether that's the executive or whether that's that frontline supervisor. So at any level. The vision and priorities are those functions that support a leader to set the priorities and make risk-based decisions. Again, depends if it's the CEO or the frontline supervisor. Support for safety, so that's the pink one in the middle. This is about ensuring leaders, workers and teams feel supported by the systems and the relationships so that they can collectively make those decisions about work. Participation, workers at all levels are actively involved in promoting and maintaining health and safety, not just the HSRs, people, everyone. Participation is more than just representation. Now, I just quickly checked. You've got an Act, regs, and the Model Code of Practice. They talk about participation in those documents 38 times. The WorkSafe Tasmania website talks about participation 7 times. Participation is actually never defined anywhere. What is it? What does it mean? We're very clear on what representation is, but what is participation? It is about workers being informed and actively meeting their duty to take reasonable care. So are we capable in doing that? Okay, the next one is agility. Ability, not agility. This signifies the capacity to develop and direct resources to ensure safe business operations. So the first one there, the light blue, resourcing and development, which we just heard about in the panel, is about the provision of adequate resources, whether that is humans, whether that is safety management systems, equipment for controls, people, or training for safe to support good work. The middle one, the orange one, is team coordination. So this is really about that great communication amongst a team, good planning, importantly supervision, another legal requirement that makes working together easier, but also to get the job done safely. The yellow one is mindful compliance. So this is about workers at all levels, including the executives and the board, understanding and knowingly applying what they need to do to take reasonable care or exercise reasonable steps to get a job done safely or to prioritise safe work. Okay, and the last one across the bottom is pulse. It indicates the organisation's agility and responsiveness to anticipate and adapt or react to risks. So communication and change, of course, is where a lot of adaptation comes from. So this is really about clear messages being given and received so that we have the information that we need to make the decisions that we need to make at the level we're at so we can adapt. Psychological safety, remember the difference in the definition. Psychological safety down the bottom in the middle. Individuals and teams feel safe to discuss work, to discuss safety, to be vulnerable when they talk about that, and share their experiences. And the last one in the bottom corner is speak up, which is the green one. So this, again, ties in nicely with that psychological safety, is that they then feel empowered to speak up, to talk about things, to raise an issue if they feel work is not safe, and include stopping work if it's unsafe, which is their duty as a worker. But also to suggest improvements. So there's a connection to that participation piece. Now, the key with this is that they're not standalone tick box items. The puzzle framework highlights that they're all interconnected, and that's that whole system capability. So, for example, if we have strong change management methodology, awesome. If it's delivered timely with empathy and clarity, very important, then we can foster psychological safety. The leaders delivering that change message can work with the workers and deliver that message that with empathy and create that space, that psychologically safe space to talk about, vulnerabilities when it comes to that change. That in turn fosters that environment for the workers and to go, I don't know if that's going to work, or we'll work with it and we'll adapt and we'll support it and see how it goes. Okay, so I think I just said that, the interconnectedness is that holistic approach. Now we know that a system can't function if the people don't understand it and they don't use it. It becomes a very nice artefact in our organisation, but it then collects cobwebs. We know that communication won't stick if there's those underlying foundations. If people don't really believe it, they have a lack of trust, then they won't speak up in support or against it as well. When we look, so what we're looking for is alignment across all of these aspects, across our systems, our people, and those customary practices, so that the organisation can work as a whole and not in silos. Safety shouldn't be this little unit that works off the side and does all the safety stuff. It needs to be embedded across the organisation. And that's what capability is. It's not just how good one part is, it's how everything works together. So, I mentioned return to work before. A lot of our work is really in the prevention space, but when WorkSafe Queensland did this work, it did include recovery and return to work, and I'm mindful there was injury management on the program today. So when it comes to this side of things, we do have these three elements at the bottom of our pillars as well. So person-centred care is under our systems pillar. These are the systems in place that the individual is at the heart of recovery and return to work planning. It ensures support is timely, it's tailored, and it is empowering for them. Respectful recovery is having those workplace practices in place to promote empathy, to promote inclusion, and have open communication, removing that stigma and trying to foster that culture of care. It can be difficult with frontline supervisors. And they're like, yeah, but he can't drive the tractor, so what am I going to do with him? Sorry, that was just a personal experience I had. And the last one is active return to work. People then are supported and they take an active role in wanting to get back to work, which is really important. We know the research tells us it's good for their mental health as well. So getting them back to work with confidence, clarity and connection, so that they feel like, yes, they might not be able to drive that tractor, but they can do something that's meaningful for their team and contribute back to that team environment, usually some of their good mates, in some sort of way. Okay, now to truly understand health and safety performance, we also need to go beyond our traditional approach of measuring health and safety. Ugh. Historically, we always bang on about lost time injuries and frequency rates. And the research is clear. We need to move on from that. Yeah, we might still need to have it there, but we need to sort of focus beyond it. That's probably a better way of look beyond just those lagging indicators. So our approach to measuring capability is built on those 3 pillars. And unlike an audit, we don't just ask if a process if it exists. What we do is we try and deep dive so we can get in and understand its maturity as well. It's how well it has been embedded. So because capability in these 3 areas, it's not just a pass or fail, tick, tick, cross. If an organisation has a safety procedure written down, that's a great tick for certification. Yeah? Doesn't mean it's working. Doesn't mean it's in place. Doesn't mean people understand it. What we try and understand is how well they do understand it and how well that procedure might perform under pressure. So to capture that complexity, we measure health and safety capability on a spectrum. And if I press that, it does this funky... No, it's not doing it. Hang on. Oh, there we go. It does this funky thing. So the measurement approach acknowledges that capability is dynamic. It can improve with a focused effort, but it can also decline over time. If you shift and stop focusing on something or stop, continually reinforcing it, it could decline. So determining the position on the spectrum involves assessing qualitative data, which are observations, worker insights, those surveys that we might use, people at work, for example, as well as quantitative data. So that is our lagging indicators. That is our audit results. That is our inspections and all those quantitative data that we would gather normally throughout our systems. Okay, let's stop doing that, putting people to sleep. So by using a spectrum, we shift the conversation away from are we compliant to how capable are we and where can we improve. It provides a framework for continuous improvement and it helps us to target interventions where they are needed most, which is what I was rushing to get to give you these examples. Okay, so I've got 2 very different ones. The first one is a medium-sized not-for-profit in the kind of like researchy healthcare sector. Now, you can see they had a reasonably low capability score. And that seems tough because they had lots of safety stuff, as I call it. They're like, here's our policy and our procedure, Naomi. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a big folder. And I said, so what's the problem? They go, oh, people don't know what to do. They don't know that they're responsible. And of course, you open up the first procedure and it's basically a code of practice. You're like, well, okay. That might explain a lot. So a coordinated effort was to try and embed systematic processes. So we're working in that systems column here a fair bit, but make it relevant to what they did. They had heaps of volunteers, and yet the procedures didn't even talk to volunteers and the safety of volunteers. So we had to really make it relevant for the supervisors and what they were doing, the work that they were doing. This job was very much heavily focused on psychosocial safety. It was triggered by the fact that we had our regulations come in. So the workers were really worried about that. Given its not-for-profit healthcare, you can probably have a bit of a guess that there's potentially a lot of psychosocial risk in this type of organisation. So they were worried. They knew they had to do something. They knew they were responsible, but they were really uncertain what to do when it came to psychosocial. So we focused, and this comes up in both examples. We focused on usability, this user experience, that first one at the top there. That is making sure your procedures are really clear. I'm a supervisor, what do I need to do when it comes to managing confined spaces? Or what do I need to do when it comes to work design and psychosocial hazards? Very clear. Action-orientated procedures. There was also a whole bunch of training, and I think if I jump over to the next slide, here we go. I just grabbed some snapshot examples. So some online psychosocial awareness training, as well as some in-person supervisor and manager training as well, was done with these guys, specifically with that psychosocial aspect. And so if I just skip back, so their capability improved, and the point here is it improved. We saw greater mindful compliance. So we didn't sort of go in targeting mindful compliance. We went in and said, let's be really clear about the procedures. Once they're really clear and they're trained on them, then it's really easy to comply with something that you know what you need to do. So the focus on psychosocial hazards also saw an impact on psychological safety and speaking up, because people knew then that they knew the language, they knew how to articulate what it was that they were feeling and experiencing, and so they felt more empowered to speak up. Okay, my other example is too far away. 1, 2, oh, hang on. There they are. I've got my slides around the wrong way. Okay, number 2 is a medium-sized, again, regional organisation, infrastructure and utilities. Essentially, they're a council in a regional location. Now, this was the example that you heard earlier as well. So these guys, again, their capability score was really low, but the funny thing was 2 years earlier they received an audit score of over 70% for, so National Self-Insurance Audit Tool was used, which is Workers' Comp and 45,001. So they received this really awesome audit score, yet they weren't capable. The CEO, then what happened was they were audited 2 years later and they got 25. And the CEO is going, what the hell has happened here? We were getting our photo in the paper to say how awesome we were, and now 2 years later. They did lose their entire safety team, so that doesn't help. What happened was they lost that team. Then, of course, the auditor turned up and said, I'm here to audit safety. And everyone went, we don't know where anything is. And they go to the front line. The supervisors are like, we do this stuff. So it was a bit of a unmanaged audit shambles. So again, they did have lots of safety stuff. They had registers. They had risk assessment books. They had all of this stuff. The problem was that safety ran everything, and it wasn't embedded in the organisation, so therefore they couldn't demonstrate it. CEO realised that this was going to take some time. So this one was a 12-month journey with these guys. Again, strong focus on usability, and it's actually down the bottom, hiding. We also did literacy, language literacy, numeracy, and digital testing with these guys. And it was very low. We're talking year 7 at best, year 9 level. So that risk talk you heard took away the need to be writing all this extra safety stuff and have a conversation to point things out and have that conversation with the workers. And there was no fear of spelling something wrong or having to write something down or use the right grammar or tick the right box. So that was why we introduced that technology as well as usability mapping with them. Okay, and they had a big jump, right? But it's 12 months, so it's easy to big jump. Oh, so if I just go back. So that's an example of a usability mapped procedure. So that would be what you normally see. What's my point there? There is Word can actually give you a reading assessment, yeah? So you can see there, grade 13, if anyone's been to grade 13, just to read that document. It takes that document there had 7 pages before you actually got into a procedure. This one here, that's page 2 of the procedure, and it already straight up, we've got it down to grade 10 level. by usability mapping, and you can see very clearly, this is electrical safety too, so year 10 is probably as low as you're going to get it, that the WHO and the supervisor have a job to do. They are mocked examples because I'm mindful that you will get the slides, so I couldn't give you the rigidage stuff. So if you look closely at the words, you'll probably go, what? Okay, let's skip over. Alrighty, so, oh yes, that's the wrist talk. It actually does voice to text. So yes, you will get all the adjectives that they may or may not use in their conversation, but it does do voice to text. It also does other languages as well. Works really well even if they're wearing respirators. And they did a lot of training as well. We did some leadership training with them, so those supervisors knew how to use wrist talk. They knew what it was to have those conversations, those psychologically safe conversations. My message, my time has run out. So my message to you all today, be strategic. You've learnt a lot today. You already know a lot. You've probably got strategies or action plans in your workplaces. Be strategic though, because what I find is you can leave today really excited and you'll create a shopping list and then you'll buy all this safety stuff and you won't be going in the direction that you need to be going, and you'll be trying to get yourself across all these various things and nothing will actually stick. So be strategic. Do some type of assessment. There's that there is a free capability survey tool at Queensland. Look at that with your other data. Do a baseline. Understand where you're at and what you need to target specifically. And there's some things here you can do. Talk to your senior management around what capability is. Try and influence them with that different type of language. Ensure your systems and structures are in place and are managed. Relationships and practices that enable consultation, communication, but importantly, that participation. Think about what that looks like. Formal structures of accountability and responsibility. Yeah, what they are and what they actually are, understanding that is good. And how you can use technology. Again, it's always very shiny and it's like exciting, but how you can use that and to address the needs of your organisation. If it's a literacy need, then it might be good, but you should also do digital literacy as well. Next steps, what do I need to do? I've already pointed to it, use the practical guidance tools. My last point here is, if you need help, seek out a suitably qualified and, if preferably, a certified safety professional, practitioner or professional. As the former chair of the AIHS, it's an important message for you. You know why you need someone suitably qualified. You know why you're suitably qualified. But why? What is certification? How do I know if they're certified? They'll have one of these badges. If you don't have one of those badges, go and find out how you can get one. Why would you want one? 2 reasons. It requires you to do continuing professional development, so to come to events like this and learn about the new research, to hear those panel speakers and understand what's happening, and keep up to date with the technology and the thinking and the practices. The second is we have to sign an ethics commitment, and if a certified person isn't functioning ethically, you can make a complaint to the Institute and they have a process about that. So if you are dealing with a consultant who is not acting ethically and they have a badge, you can talk to the Institute about that. Alrighty, last thing. So where do we land? We've spent decades trying to fix culture, hoping that if we get the right tone, if we have the right campaign, things will magically fix. But culture is not a lever you can pull. It's the result. Capability is what an organisation is equipped to do consistently, effectively and under pressure. It keeps people safe, even when conditions change. Measuring capability gives you a map. Measuring culture will just give you a feeling. Be strategic. When capability works, the people will feel it. They don't just survive work, they thrive. And that's what this conference is all about. Safety, strength and success. And that's what capability will deliver. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.